All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Webinar Wednesdays at Intermedia. So this is the Tech Titan track where we're going to be addressing all things technical. My name is Kim Withrow, and I'm the manager of the sales engineering team here at Intermedia. It's my pleasure and really my honor to be the moderator for today's webinar. We're going to be talking about Intermedia's contact center solutions. And we're going to be starting off with a deep dive on Contact Center Express. That's going to last approximately 30 minutes, with the first 20 minutes or so being a live demo / presentation, and then the last 10 minutes of that is reserved as a Q&A. Then we're going to proceed to our Sales 101 on how to sell CCaaS solutions. So this section is actually going to be happening each week in an iterative fashion. Building upon the previous week's trainings, and it's going to give you everything you need to know on how to sell CCaaS. But before we get started, I just want to do a quick technical check-in. So if you can hear me, if you wouldn't mind, please give me a quick thumbs up or smiley emoji using the button on the top center of your screen. And you all obviously already know where it is. Great, thank you so much. I love seeing those emojis fly across the screen. It's wonderful. All right, so a couple things before I turn it over to the presenter. I want to make sure everybody can get the most out of their webinar experience today. So at the top of the screen, you have some buttons, the first of which you've actually already used, but feel free to tell us how you're feeling at any point in the webinar. Hopefully you're going to be using the smiley emoji, the laughter, or the applause, but if you're not liking something, you can definitely let us know that you're sad as well. Additionally, when we are doing the Q&A session of the webinar, if you could please use the built-in questioning functionality by clicking on that little blue question mark square at the top center of your screen to send over any questions that you have, as opposed to sending it in the chat window. What that does is going to open up a little window, a little dialog box. You can type in your question. It'll send it over to me, the presenter. I'll collect all those together, and we will definitely answer as many of those as we can in the time that we have. And then last but not least, if you want to switch between using your built-in audio on your laptop or desktop to calling in, you can use that third button in the navigation bar. All right, I want to briefly talk about the Unite certification process. So many of you on the call today are already Unite certified, and if you've already done that, great, thank you so much for doing that. But for those of you who are not yet, I just want to mention that it only takes 3 hours for you to complete this. And it really gives you everything that you need to start selling our Unite product right away. Now, to get started on the certification process, it's really simple. You would simply just go and log into your partner portal, then click on Intermedia University, and then click on the orange Get Certified button. If you get lost with this, or if you need any assistance, you can contact your partner account manager, and you can also contact the partner concierge desk. And then once you're certified, please make sure that you have one of our NFR accounts. So NFR stands for Not for Resale, which is the program that allows you to sign up for Intermedia products for yourself, for your own company, at a steep discount or even sometimes free. So here at Intermedia, we believe that the best way to understand and therefore sell a product is to use it yourself. And so we make these NFR accounts available for you so that you can, eat your own dog food, I think is how they say it. So if you're interested in an NFR account, you don't currently have one, you can call the number on the screen, or you probably guessed it, you can also contact your partner account manager. And then last but not least, I want to give a quick shout out to the Partner Concierge desk. So this desk is staffed full-time with support folks who do nothing but help partners like yourself with, all of your technical needs. So things that they can assist with include creating quotes, creating new accounts, provisioning phones and devices, and much, much more. So their contact details are on the screen. They're open from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific, and they can be reached at this dedicated 877 number, and you can also email them at vipdesk@intermedia.net. All right, so now I'd like to turn things over to our first presenter for the first part of today's webinar. His name is Aaron Roberts. Aaron has been a sales engineer here at Intermedia for about 3 years. However, he's worked within the voice over IP and networking fields for over 2 decades. He was intricately involved with the development and the testing of our Unite UCaaS solution, and he is our resident expert in Contact Center Express. So with that, Aaron, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you everyone who chose to take some time today to attend this. We're all excited to have you not only as partners, but also to consider some of these new features as they roll out to each of the different platforms and different applications and features within our platforms, so you could take advantage of them and hopefully accommodate your users and your customers' needs better now and in the future. The first screen we're looking at here is one that folks that are already selling the UCaaS product or the Unite product, or Elevate if you're a private label reseller, are probably familiar with. It's the Cloud PBX, or the Cloud Phone System Main Management or Administrative Interface that's nestled within the Host Pilot interface, which is of course our API aggregation for all of the different applications of administration. Those folks that have already been familiar with this have probably been using call distribution engine, the hunt groups today. And now we have a new tab here called Contact Center. And within Contact Center, we have a whole new set of groups. And those new groups are what we're calling our Contact Center Express groups. This is an additional feature that layers on top of the traditional user license for the Unite or Elevate user. And in fact, it carries an additional charge to enable it. And the additional charge is to layer on the new services and the new features that come with this particular type of feature and application. You could see that we have a user tab, a groups tab, and a reports tab. The user tab is where we're going to designate those users who will potentially be participating in a contact center distribution or call distribution group. Really what our Contact Center Express feature is intending to do is to distribute calls out to agents relevant to a specific specialty and make those calls available not only for the user agents, but also for the user managers to ensure that those folks coming into that call distribution engine are not only getting routed to the right entity, but also being treated and handled in the way that's consistent with their internal needs. We can see that we have a significant amount of users in this example that have the contact center enabled for them. And then we could see all the users on this particular platform that have it disabled. It's as easy as checking a box to enable a specific user to then be a contact center agent or a manager, and both require the designation of Contact Center Express service to be either an agent or a manager on the system. The next tab within the Contact Center group feature tab is going to be our groups themselves. And consistent with what we see inside of our Hunt group call distribution engine is going to be some similar visuals. So if you're familiar with the Hunt groups, you'll probably see some things I'm about to show you that are going to be similar, or if not exactly the same. One thing we could see for sure is that we can have a or multiple phone numbers. So you can see this one has 2 phone numbers, in fact. We have an extension that can transfer to it. And then we have manager and agent references here in our main reference view. And here we'll open the customer care tab and use customer care Contact Center Express group as our primary demonstration today. Again, consistent with what you may be already familiar with within the Hunt groups, and ideally it's intuitive with this in mind. We built it very similar to make it feel and easy to administer for those who are more already familiar with our platform. We're going to have our general tab where we can do the manipulation of the extension and phone numbers, the ringing order for our agents, max caller on call settings, Hunt group timeout or call center timeout settings. All these things are, again, things that you've already ideally familiar with. We do have the ability to continually offer all the different greetings, from an initial greeting to our transfer call, our repeating interval messages, etc. We can offer menu items within those greetings that then make them, your inbound callers can make decisions based on what you offer them. Maybe we could press 0 to go to reception and have that caller then use, they can offer at any time in any of the greetings, press 0 at any time to go to reception, or maybe we want it to go to press 1 to go to a voicemail. If we want to give our callers these options, we have that ability. Again, stuff that you'll probably have already seen in the Hunt group call distribution engine. But new to this is the new manager tab here. So this is going to be where we'll be able to designate a manager. And really one of the benefits of using the Contact Center Express groups is this management component, because it really gives a fuller feature experience for those inbound calls, and then gives the managers or those supervisors who are managing this particular Contact Center Express group, in this case, our customer care group, the ability to have some additional features to ensure, again, that that inbound caller is getting the treatment that they hope to and that the company wants to present. The call recordings is, again, going to be consistent with what we offer today with group recordings, so we can record all inbound calls to this particular Contact Center Express group. And as you may or may not know, pretty much every object on our system, from users to auto attendants to contact center groups and hunt groups, all have their own voicemail that you can enable and use for your customers to have a specific to the customer care group, for example, voicemail box. So from an administrative perspective, you could see that it's a very straightforward, or at least one that you're probably familiar with, approach to how we're going to be able to create a group and how we can then designate not only our agents today, but now with the ability, our managers. What we can then look at then is what reporting we're going to have and some of the improvements we have on reporting that can then make this even a more valuable improvement and more valuable feature. We'll take again our customer care group for our example, and we're going to be able to have two different arguments for our reports. We're going to have some sort of date argument, and then we'll have some sort of agent argument. The date argument is going to allow us to do an active report for today, which essentially then gives us the most accurate, up-to-date glance for at that moment in time. Or we can choose a historical report where we have the option of choosing some pre-canned date ranges, as well as a custom date range. When choosing the particular date range and then ultimately which agent argument we have, and we're just going to use all agents for our report. When I choose Get Report, what we're going to see then is 6 different items that'll be reported on specifically. And that's going to be calls that were immediately connected after an inbound caller was played their initial greeting, and then an agent immediately picked it up. They were in any amount of hold time or queue time, we'll designate that they were connected after that queue or hold time. If they chose to press 1 to leave a voicemail or 0 for reception, we'll record that in our reporting, where we'll show routed away by pressing one of the digits we've offered them. And ultimately, if the caller timed out, we'll also report how many calls went into that timeout setting or timeout feature based on our timed out settings for that particular group. If callers were on queue or in hold and then they hung up, we'll report that as an abandoned call. And then if we have a maximum caller setting enabled, we would also show if we've reached that maximum caller, failed, that call, inbound call failed due to that. So we have these 6 different items that we're going to report on in a sort of all call view. And as I'll skip past these call durations for a moment, I'll show though that we have those same 6 items that we're going to show based on what we call a line graph over that date range that we've chosen for the historical. So we have a 30-day window here. We're going to see 30 days of the same 6 items that we just reviewed. Similarly, where we have a digest of all of those 6 items here at the top, we also have a digest of our call durations for that date range. And we have a total call time, a hold or queue time, and then we have a talk time. And we are showing our averages and maximums over that date range that we've chosen. But when we scroll down to below the call report for the date range, we'll see then that we have our hold time, our talk time, as well as our overall call duration, again, to be represented for that entirety of the date range in a line graph. And this is going to show both our averages and maximums. So these reports are really intended to be a trend report to get an idea of these factors: how many calls are getting immediately connected, how many calls are being abandoned because they're on hold too long or whatever the reason may be. And we can start to get a trend when we see it over a time frame to get an idea of, do we need to staff up? Do we need more agents? Do we need to work on our messaging, etc.? These reports are today available as an administrator, but the exciting news is that we're also giving this ability to any managers designated for a particular group. So for example, customer care has a manager designated. That manager would then be able to also see this report specific to their purview of the customer care group. Also, we have the ability now to print these, and we can print these into obviously a paper print, or naturally many applications allow us to save things as PDFs today. And we could then save this report as a PDF and then send it to somebody potentially. Also, we have the ability to export this down to a CSV format. It's going to be the same information. It's just going to be presented in a more data approach with less of the visual graphs and so on. That's really the backbone of the administrative and a description of the features for the particular contact center express group setup, etc. And then what we can do is look at what it looks like when a call comes into that group and what the agent, once answering it, what's the manager role to the agent and what's that feel like or what's that look like in a day-to-day environment. So I'm going to take this particular application off the screen. And then what we're looking at here now is we're looking at Mark Jackson, who is in this case the manager that we had designated for that customer care express group I was just using to show the administration. Here we can see Mark, though he's designated as the manager, he's also been enabled with the Contact Center Express service, so he could be also an agent. And in fact, he's designated an agent in this instance into 3 different groups: customer care, where he's also the manager, sales group, and the trader desk. These are just 3 demonstration groups that we have set up for today. As an agent, not a manager, the agent themselves can log themselves in and out of these different groups from this agent settings tab that we have available inside the Unite desktop application. That is this application we're looking at here. So essentially, they won't have to log in using their physical phone on their desk, but they won't have to put in a specific spree code to log them into a specific queue. They can just log themselves in using the application. This is the desktop application, and once you've been designated a manager like Mark Jackson has, you'll have a new tab here, and that's this small headphones that really is attempting to designate the Contact Center Express group managerial role. So when we click on it, we'll see first the group that we're looking at specifically. In this case, he's a manager of the customer care group, but if he were a manager of other groups, and in fact he is, we could choose those other groups. It'll state that we're monitoring, which is naturally what we're doing at this very moment. And then we can see at a glance that we have 0 active calls at this time. But we also can look at our agents and say, here's all the agents designated to the customer care group, as well as their logged in and logged out status. And as a manager, Mark has the ability not only to log himself in and out, but he has the ability to log out those folks that are agents under the purview of the particular group that he's a manager and log them and make them logged in or logged out status. And Eric Martin, for our example today, is going to be the agent that we use primarily for this demonstration. So we'll have Eric Martin logged in here. So what does it look like when a call comes into this Express group, specifically to the manager, where we have the most differentiation in service and feature compared to our existing hunt groups? The agent will still receive a call. The agent will still have an augmented caller ID to show that a call is coming into customer care. But what does the manager see? So let's start a call up. Just a moment. First thing when we have a caller come into the queue is it's going to show that there is now an active call. In this case, it's me calling in. The timestamp of when the call started and the duration of the time that they're sitting in the queue will all be available. We can see here Eric's phone is now ringing because he's the only logged in agent. And when I answer this call by Eric, oops, I think I got that. Let's try that again. There we go. So now we can see in this agents tab that Eric is on the phone at this moment, but also when we click back to the active calls tab, here now we can see that the duration has changed from queue time to talk time. We could see which agent is talking to the inbound caller, and we can also see the start of the call. But when I hover over the actual call instance, we have 3 new buttons: Monitor, Whisper, and Barge. These are 3 managerial role functions that folks that work in contact center environments may be familiar with today. But otherwise, let me explain what each one of them does. The first one here, monitor, and this is of course me, Mark Jackson, as the manager, attempting to monitor Eric Martin on his call to this particular inbound caller. By clicking monitor, what I'm going to be able to do as a manager is listen to both parties talk on the call in a silent listen only mode. So I can hear what Eric is saying and I can hear what this inbound caller is saying as well. If I choose to whisper, what I'm doing with that particular setting is unmuting myself from Eric, continuing to mute myself to the inbound caller in the event that I need to give some coaching or direction to the agent, in this case, Eric, during the actual active call. And then the last option I have is what we call the barge option, which, as it implies, it's a little bit of intrusive because you're going to then participate in the call. Both parties will be unmuted. Both parties will be able to then hear me upon entering that call, unless I'm muted, of course, by pressing the barge button. So what's that look like? Let's start with monitor. When I click the monitor button, we'll then have a view at the top here. I'm going to mute this. And we can now, I'm listening to Eric and the inbound caller as a third party. No one knows I'm there. The agent doesn't know I'm there. The active caller doesn't know I'm there at this moment. During this monitor, or frankly, during the whisper, I can flip back in between the two of them. So I can switch over to whisper. And now at this point, I'm actually talking when I do talk, and Eric can hear me. Now it's going to overrun what they're saying, so we have to be careful as a manager, of course. But now I can whisper to Eric, hey, give him that deal we talked about at lunch yesterday, and maybe we can help get that customer care instance solved faster, or whatever the case may be. And it also states naturally, as you could see, that I am whispering, Mark Jackson is whispering ultimately to Eric. And then when I do need to, if I need to, I can again barge into the call. And then upon barging into the call, you could see I'm now participating in the call as a third party at this point. The entirety of the experience is one that should be ideally simple, and we believe it is. These buttons and the ability to leave the call, it still leaves the call active between the agent and the caller by not participating as a manager. These tools are ones that we've been requested for years to have these added to the service to allow for those managers and supervisors that do need this sort of functionality. Upon ending the call with the agent to the customer, to the inbound caller, then we'll see our active calls go to 0 again. There's no active calls at this time. So that is really the crux of the feature function of the manager role within the desktop application for a specific agent on an inbound call to a specific contact center express group. Some of the other features that come along with the contact center express groups are going to be manager level reporting. So here I'm in the customer care group as Mark Jackson, the manager. I can click in on this report button, and in doing so, I can launch my reports. And what it's going to do then is it'll open up a tab, which I'll move over, to show what we had looked at as an administrator before, previously in this demonstration, to see again that different report options for either agents or for the all agents or the queue itself or the contact center express group itself. And we can pull those reports as well as print them and download them to a comma separated value file. So again, same reports that the administrators can see, except now with the manager designation, an individual manager with a specific group purview can also see these same reports as a manager. Something new to the Contact Center Express feature compared to specifically the Hunt Group feature that maybe some of us are familiar with. Let me go back. Another component of the report tab that I pressed up here is the ability to either copy a link to or to launch a wallboard that will actually act as a real-time monitor of the queue itself. So when we click this, it'll be formatted in a way that you could maybe envision on the side of a wall in a group of agents. So its intent is to be visible if it were being projected or put onto a TV screen or a monitor of some sort. And this is going to show a real-time view of the current status of this particular queue. So naturally, we have our plain language name referenced up here for customer care. We have our date timestamp to show what time it is. We have our active calls, our calls in the queue waiting to be answered by one of the agents that are logged in. In this case, Mark Jackson and Eric Martin are the two agents logged in. And then here we can see the customers with an agent. If I were to call back into the queue from a phone, we'll immediately see that we have a call in queue and an active call, and we have two agents, but none of the agents are talking. Once I answer the call by Eric Martin, the agent, it'll switch that immediately over to show exactly what we hope it would. The agents are now with a customer on the call. We have one. There's no calls in queue at this time, and we still have that same active call going. We also at a glance have the ability to see average hold times, average talk times, calls answered in that today for the current day, and then abandoned calls for the current day. So again, a useful tool for an environment where we want to be able to give folks a quick glance, or a manager a quick glance of the status of their particular group that they're working with. And this can be, like I said, put on a different screen. It's a URL that can also be shared and linked, so someone else can put this onto a different host machine that then can project it onto a wall or to another monitor, for example. Let me hang up this call. These sorts of features and these sorts of functions, again, are ones that have been requested over time. We really focused with this particular additional feature on the manager experience, the improved reporting, and the ability to have that call distribution not be limited to just a hunt group as it is and has been up till now. We have different products for our greater call center needs, our contact center pro and elite products, which we're going to talk also about a little bit today. And those features expand on this to make it a more full contact center rich experience that then can meet the needs of other folks that have a greater need for different contact center features. But that's what I have today to show you all and offer up. One thing that we wanted to run a poll and see if this is the sorts of things that you were hoping to see, if you have opportunities that might be coming up in the next near future. Is that something we could start, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for that, Aaron. That was wonderful. Just wanted to get a sense from you guys, if you wouldn't mind participating in this poll really quickly. So how often do you come across opportunities that would find value in Call Center Express? So we've got a number of folks that are responding, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and share the results. So it looks like most people are about a little under 50% are saying that they run across about maybe 1 to 2 a quarter. 23% are at 1 to 2 a month, which is great. Others are not sure, and some folks haven't run across anything yet. So that is very valuable information, and we appreciate your participation.
Thank you so much for that. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
If there's any questions too.
Yeah. So let's head into the question section. And I just want to mention we are kind of running a little bit behind. So I'm going to try to do these a little bit quickly, if you don't mind, because I want to make sure we get to the second section of our webinar today. So let me just go ahead and get these started. Bear with me here. Okay, so the first question, is the certification required annually or just once? Do you want to answer that, Aaron, or do you want me to do it?
No, I can do it. Fortunately, okay. I can answer some of these. I may need to help rely on some others, though. Fortunately, it's a single certification. If there was an expanded feature set, or if this feature set changed so dramatically, we would ideally then certify an individual feature for those folks and organizations that are partnered with us, instead of having to ideally not force them through the entire certification. However, if there were a significant change in some manner, we would definitely want to make certain that you never felt like we were leaving you unprepared or unequipped to present and to sell this product. So we're going to do our best to ultimately not only we're not certifying you for any other reason to make you more successful ideally. And so it will be just once at this point.
Excellent. Well said. Okay. When will outbound calls be added to Contact Center Express? I'm assuming they're
Great question. Great question.
Yeah.
This Contact Center Express, again, as we mentioned, is a call distribution engine. Some of our other contact center products do focus more on the inbound and outbound from a contact center philosophy. In other words, an entity that's intended on taking customer care calls, for the example that we used today. As folks need more features with regard to a specific entity that's not necessarily a call distribution group, but let's say like a sales department where we want to be able to participate in those call, monitor, whisper, barge with an outbound call, that's when we start creeping out of a call distribution and start creeping more into a management environment, or even a full inbound outbound call center environment. And that's where our other two products, the Pro and Elite models, really start to shine and start to have augmented features that do allow for this. But today and in the near future, I don't see us including outbound call, monitor, whisper, barge for our Contact Center Express groups.
Thank you, Aaron. And I did actually put into the group chat the email address for the Unite feedback. And so if that is something that folks on the call are interested in, sort of voting for and having their voice be heard, please feel free to email that email address and let them know.
Yeah, anybody who's been working with us for a while knows that we're very responsive to these requests. It's a determination of making sure that we're putting our focus, our development energies in the right area where we're going to get the most use for you all to have a product that's usable and sellable to your customers.
All right, next question. Does this platform offer callbacks?
Today, this does not. However, our other level, our Elite and our Pro products do have a callback feature, and that's something that we can look more into understanding those products in a different webinar.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We're not going to have time for all the questions because we are running over, but I'll do a couple more. Is there a way to set scheduling directly on Express, or do you still need to first run it through an auto attendant like we have to with Hunt Groups?
Great question. And today, the Contact Center Express groups are fully autonomous of the auto attendant. And in fact, with the Unite and Elevate platforms, so are the Hunt groups with regard to their availability. The schedulability, if you will, that the auto attendant allows for then offering access to a Hunt group, either by extension dial or by pushing a specific programmed button to go to that particular Hunt group or Express group, will still be available. However, the Hunt groups themselves aren't necessarily on a scheduled basis. They're going to be based on if there's an available agent, then that agent will then ring if someone were to somehow have got to that Contact Center Express group. So ultimately, we would still need, from a schedulability standpoint, to nest it under an auto attendant to add some layer of schedule.
All right, excellent. And just one last one is, oh, I think we know the answer to that one. I think this one came in early in the webinar.
Fair enough.
Let's try one more real quick. Do both managers and agents require contact center licensing or just managers?
Both, and that's a great question. I hope I highlighted that a little on the administrative side of it, but when we look at the user designation for the Contact Center Express Group Administration, here we will be able to, as it states here, users that are going to be agents or manager supervisors in a group will also have to have the service enabled. All right.
All right, great. So I am going to go ahead and stop the Q&A because we have been running into our second half an hour segment here, and I want to make sure we have time for Joe. But rest assured, if your question was not answered, it was captured, and we will reach back out to you and let you know and have a discussion with you regarding the question that you asked. And so without further ado, and thank you very much, Aaron, for that was wonderful. I'd like to turn things over to Joe, who's going to be actually take you through the CCAS sales training portion of today's webinar. So Joe?
Thank you very much, Kim, and great job, Aaron. So let's just wait for this this presentation to get loaded here. What we're going to be running through here today, some basics in CCAS prospecting and pitching. And just so you know, we're gonna be running over certain things faster than normal. This segment is normally built for about a 1 hour session, but we're gonna zone in on certain things on this training, and we will highlight other things as we go forward. So we're gonna have a CCAS sales training component every single week on these Wednesday webinar sessions. We're gonna be tying on to the second segment every time, just the same as we are now, but we're gonna have a 1 hour session going forward. So we'll have some more time to dig into things. Alrighty, so are we getting that presentation loaded?